Okay. Okay.
Okay. All right. We're here with Brandon Routh. Um,
Oh,
Thank you so much for sitting down with me. I think everybody knows you from a body of work that's spanned, 20, 30 years now.
not
Uh,
quite 30, but we're getting close.
you're getting close.
20, 20, 24.
24 years in this industry, in this crazy, wild industry that is full of very interesting, unique, dynamic people. Um, and you and I were introduced by my wife, Katie, and you guys worked together on Legends of Tomorrow, right?
That's right.
Man, you
And
end up
400
getting,
days, but let's
yeah,
just tomorrow's
right. Um, this
movie.
is just something I realized because I'm going through like I'm from Toronto, and I
Yeah.
know like Scott Pilgrim was filmed there. That was such a cool movie. And then like you've worked a lot in Canada,
Yes.
and a lot in the sci-fi world. Now I'm a big comic book guy. Um, is that something that you seek out, or is
No,
that something that kind of seeks you out? Because
the whole thing sought me out. I mean, to be honest.
yeah,
Uh, I mean, I was a fan of Superman as far as the movies were concerned, and I have a really lovely, very true story about me watching Superman for the first time when I was, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, something like that at home. It was
mm,
playing a Sunday movie or something. First time I was going to see it, and I had my Superman pajamas, and I was jumping around the house, very, very excited, and jumping off the couch, and I don't know if it was my excitement about that or something else, but I ended up having a migraine headache. And so I enjoyed the first like hour of the movie, and the next rest of the movie, I was lying on the couch, like prepared to throw up and having a
with like a cold
terrible
towel over your
migraine.
head.
Mm-hmm.
I got migraines as a kid too.
Yeah,
They're
ice.
brutal.
Ice is the best thing.
Yeah,
Ice and peppermint oil. Yeah.
darkness.
Darkness.
Yes.
That's the first place I actually started. I learned to meditate, and I didn't know it was meditation. I don't
Just
even know.
trying to clear your mind as a kid.
Just trying. I thought, I don't know why, but very early on, an image of scissors popped into my head.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just think and try to imagine scissors and kind of repeat that in my head to block out the
Mm-hmm.
pain that I was feeling. To work to varying degrees.
That's a specific kind of meditation, right? Focusing on one specific thing and kind of like repeating it. Do you meditate?
I have a very non-traditional, it's not really a practice. It just,
Mm-hmm.
there's another word for it that I've heard in books and I can't remember what it was because it's such a great word that's different than meditation. And I do find myself meditating sometimes. I have a couple chakra, meditation
Yeah.
that really work for me. I'd be happy to share. And like having this is a challenging thing for people. Like it's easy for me. I say all this stuff anyway with a lot of privilege. This information, people would say, I don't have 10 minutes to sit in a dark room. But if you have 10 minutes to sit on your bed, even and close your eyes,
Mm-hmm.
turn on something that soothes you
Mm-hmm.
with no goal and just
Right.
eyes. Like for me, sometimes stuff just comes that I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, floating emotions and stuff, and I work to process that. That may not be like it's not a full meditation. I have no other practice, but it helps me get in touch with myself and have better self-awareness. Driving, listening to music is really powerful for me.
Sure.
Very
Yeah.
much is a brainstorm area for me to drive and think other
Mm-hmm.
thoughts. Uh, I'm very curious. So I'm solving problems and thinking about things quite often.
Would you say if you live like an analytical brain, like your
I
problem solving kind of like
do have an overactive analytical. It's helpful, but it's not always helpful.
I mean, mine can be problematic a lot of the time too.
Yeah,
Ask Katie. She goes, "You can't fix this. I don't, stop trying to fix everything." I'm going like,
yeah, you can't
"Don't I
fix everything.
know?"
Listen, there is a movie. What's the movie? Oh, yeah. I mean, by the time the interview, I'll think about what it was. But it
Yeah.
really struck me because it was a quote of a parent to a child or something, and they said, you can't, basically it was, not every question needs an answer,
Mm.
something like
It's
that.
kind
And
of
like,
profound, isn't it?
I was
Like,
like,
how does that work?
oh man, it's like, yeah, because you really can't, I mean, you really can't answer any questions with any supreme confidence that you know exactly what it is.
Right.
Um, so I lost my thought. So sorry, I was
So is it like the idea of like getting hung up on something being
yeah,
black and
problem. Thank
white?
you. See, even there, I was thinking about the problem.
Yeah.
Let's say it like this. I'm going to go to a weird space already. I
Yeah,
feel
bring it.
as I've gotten older,
Mm-hmm.
the last couple of years, gotten better at this, listening to myself and my intuition and my body, and I feel pain in my body. Sometimes it's when somebody says something, and I go, oh. Now we all kind of make that reaction, something we don't like, but then I feel it like somewhere in my holding in my body,
Mm-hmm.
and I've learned to like not push that away. Like if I have a moment to just be like, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a signal of something?
Right.
And I used to try to figure out what it was. Like, why am I? Is it the thing that somebody said it upsetting me, and I'm holding my leg because I had an injury when I was 5, and da da da.
Like a trigger, like a yeah.
Make a story about it. Great.
Mm-hmm.
There may be a story to why you're holding pain in a certain part of your body that is an emotional holding, if you're into that kind of thing, and which I am. And but also sometimes it's just recognizing that you're holding pain or you're
Mm-hmm.
holding something,
Yeah.
and just recognizing it and just going, okay, like I got, like I'm say, too big of a conversation, but I just recognize it, and sometimes just recognizing it anyway helps it dissipate,
Yeah, of course.
and I don't have to know where it came from or why.
It's like being heard.
Yeah,
It's like when all you want to do is cry out and be heard for 1 second. Like it doesn't matter if the person on the other end fully understands what you're saying, but the fact that they take the moment to listen to you. And so what you're doing, I think, is you're respecting yourself, you're respecting your body, you're respecting these reactions in yourself, and you're giving that pain a voice.
yeah,
Perhaps you're not ignoring it,
and I
right?
do, and I often actually do give it a voice. I
Yeah.
say, this pain is my pain. This pain is part of me. This pain is part of my story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then it's like it's okay, basically, I love you and I'm okay, and then it kind of,
Acceptance, right?
that's
Yeah.
acceptance. That is part, it's like what I'm going to do, like push it away. We push away pain in our body all the time, but it just makes it more.
I mean, we push away pain in our body. I mean, we push away pain in our minds. Um, you know, I was raised in the early 80s.
Same.
I had good parents. My parents loved me. I grew up in a blue collar, working class kind of way, and generationally, my parents didn't know how to talk about um, emotional stress. They didn't know how to communicate when things were wrong. Like when I heard, I could hear my parents fighting about money. I could hear my parents fighting in the other room about having and having not, comparing themselves to families around them. And my dad worked his ass off. My parents were divorced, but I was very blessed with a stepfather who, to this day I call dad. He gave me. I got very lucky. He gave me everything that he could, and I respect him, and I cherish him for that. So, I was only able to kind of like get through that some of my childhood experiences, and understanding that generational gap between my parents and the tools that they had growing up. When I kind of was able to step back and look at my parents and go, you guys are just humans.
Yeah.
Like you did your best with what you had, and God bless you for that. Now I'm going to work on me. What was it like for you growing up? Where did you grow up?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit some similarities there. I grew up in Iowa, which is a lot like Canada, in some
Mhm.
ways. A small town, about 7,000 people. My mom was a teacher. She still does do some of that. She's semi-retired. My dad was mostly a carpenter, but did many different trades. They're both musicians, so they met playing jazz back in the 70s. My dad's a drummer, mom's a singer, so performance is all
Cool.
family.
Yeah.
And I grew up in a loving household. We didn't have a lot, but we had enough. And
Hmm.
Methodist church, very involved in the church, and thankfully the Methodist Church is, as far as Christianity goes, is was at the time and is now becoming even more uh, open to all people.
Hmm.
So I had religion, and I was kind of I let that. I grew up with a religious upbringing, but not so much that it controlled all aspects of my life. Um, and as I made my way from LA to New York to back to LA, I was in the world, I was experiencing the world, and my thoughts about a greater existence and greater things grew.
Hmm.
So, but I had that nurturing. It is the heartland, and while not everyone has a wonderful time there, I did, even though, and then I came out to Los Angeles thinking I have a great family, blah blah, all this stuff, which is
Sure.
true.
Hmm.
However, I didn't get everything that I needed to know. It's hard to give kids everything they need to know. I'm doing my best, and I'm missing stuff, probably more than I know. Um, but yeah, our parents, the baby boomers, um, had their strengths and weaknesses.
Hmm.
Generation tends to have their strengths and weaknesses, and you can see it. Like, now that I talk to friends, male and female, of our age, it's a similar refrain about the parenting they received.
Hmm.
That
Sure. Yeah.
helps me because I'm like, oh, well, I mean, my parents are great. We didn't talk about emotions the way, I mean, they're very loving. My mom was always supportive of me, but it wasn't an in-depth, like, like when I was upset or sad about a kid at school, my mom would say, it's just because you know who you are, and they don't yet.
Right.
Basically, you're a
Yeah.
good boy, and you know that you're good, and they're just, they're finding their way, which is
Sure.
nice, but it's not enough. That's not
It's not
what
an answer,
about the
right?
emotion. We got to unpack this a little bit.
Right.
Now, I've since then, in the last like 5 years, I've really uh, uh, helped shift the relationship with my parents, most especially my mom, which has been really wonderful. And she's done great work also, to like reconnect, and our relationship and our connection is stronger than it's ever been. And I would say that with my dad also, but with my mom specifically, and it's a really wonderful thing. And that was
That's
because I realized that she's fallible. My parents did the best they could, truly.
yeah.
The pain that I have from them, the trauma that I have from them, or whatever, I've made it into, which was big at the time as a kid.
Hmm.
Through therapy, I've started to unpack some of that.
Sure. Yeah.
My therapist said, because I had this thing about not wanting to hurt my mom,
Hmm.
not go to the potluck, or not sign the picture, or do the thing for go see the
Hmm.
person who wants to meet Superman and all this stuff, whatever.
Hmm.
And I didn't know I didn't know how to create boundaries for myself.
Sure. Couldn't say no.
Like dangerous, but like things that I should do, I had trouble creating boundaries. That's part of like growing up in a small town and religion. Sometimes
Hmm.
you too nice at the
Yeah.
cost of yourself. Anyway,
Sure. Yeah.
so my therapist said, well, if you made your mom upset, what's the worst that would happen? And I was like, well, I mean, I guess she'd be upset. She'd be upset. And then we might not talk for a couple weeks. And then she'd send me a random text and then we'd be back talking together. And I was like, oh, it's not that bad. But the impulse, the trigger, the imperceptible, unconscious thing that happened every time I thought about responding to a text that I thought she might not like my
Sure.
response to was like death.
Yeah.
Because
Fight
I
or flight.
hadn't,
Flight,
the
right?
fight or flight was so finely
Yeah.
triggered for whatever reason through life that I couldn't even see it. So once I was allowed to like unpack that and just realize that she would be upset with me, and you know, she still loves me, and it'd be okay. Or if it wasn't, I'd still find that way for it to be okay. I let go of that, and then things started to shift in positive ways because I wasn't holding on. It just became more. I could be more myself with her.
Yeah. So you're okay, and this I'm going to take this into a direction of kind of like identity. Now, it's something that's come up during these conversations, and in our industry, it's figuring out who we are and separating who we are from, you know, our resumes and working and this and that, and people's perception of us is difficult. But if we take ourselves out of our industry, um, and correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe I'm just reading into it a little bit, but you know, learning how to take care of yourself and standing up and creating your boundaries allowed you to kind of redefine who you were in your relationship with your mother, which also then made your relationship stronger, right?
Yes.
So, and that was 5 or 6 years ago, you said?
2019, 2020.
2020. So 4 years ago or something like that. So like, you know, you've been Superman. You've had this career that's lasted, you know, that spanned 25 years now, 26 years now. You've traveled the world. You went from small town Iowa to being successful in one of it's a difficult industry, right? And yet we're still just figuring out who we are. We're figuring out how to navigate this world that is by no means not just a constant, you know, like race where you're just like hurdling one thing and then dodging the next thing and trying to swim and keep your head above water with the next, right? And yet you were able to figure it, you know, yet you were able to do this work and figure it out. And therapy. Are you a big advocate for therapy?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I think everyone should have the opportunity to speak to someone who can hold space for their feelings. Sometimes you don't have to hear anything from a therapist. My therapist, Elaine, is fantastic.
Right.
She's been like crucial to my evolution. And says really wise things sometimes. Sometimes it's just it's me talking and she's listening and listening, and I can see that she's actually listening and caring. And then I'm coming up with like I'm saying, well, maybe it's this, and then I bring it back to her.
Right.
And sometimes it's just that voice, that person, that energy that says okay to share your feelings and to have human emotions, you know.
Yeah.
We live in a world that is full of far too much pain and disconnection. I'm not the first one to say it, but I feel it a lot. And the thing is, why it's so upsetting to me is it's such a subtle shift, but it's incredibly hard to do to feel safe. How do we feel safe? Everyone wants to feel safe, right? I want to feel safe. constantly. My body's checking and my mind's checking, my emotions checking. Am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe to relax for this 5 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Can I even like not worry about somebody texting me or some other thing or the thing I didn't do that I should have done 3 weeks ago?
Mm-hmm.
um, Therapy can help. Uh,
Therapy can help. I've been in therapy
can
for
help with
15 years.
I don't know what that specific thing I'm talking about necessarily, but it can make it's helpful to know that somebody else cares about our feelings when you're in a long-term relationship of any kind, even with your parents. They
Mm-hmm.
know who you are. They don't inspect, they don't get as curious. When we know people for a long time, we lose our curiosity a lot of the time because we think we know what they're going to say. That we have an image of them, we think they have an image of us, and we just play by each other's rules. It's very challenging to break those rules. It's very challenging to be the one who's going to like shift that and be a different person, because not only because you have to constantly not be the person that the other that
Expects you to be.
expects you to be.
Yeah.
That's another hard thing with change. And I don't know, I'm transitioning to a different place here, talking about therapy, but um, yeah, I don't know, bring you back to what we should be talking about. I get carried away sometimes.
No, I mean, I think, look, change, I kind of like where you're taking it. I mean, I decided drinking was had been a bad habit in my life. I had used it to escape things. I'd used it as a coping mechanism. I started drinking at 15. I mean, younger than that. I was younger than that when I was like, stealing sips from my parents' liquor cabinet or like sneaking out with friends to go in the park and, do whatever. But like my entire ability to socialize and have confidence in social situations was based around having a cocktail or two. So I found it really difficult when I did stop drinking, I should say, to uh, the dynamic with friends changed. Um, I wasn't the person that they thought I was, and that was scary because I lost friends.
Mm.
I mean, and it's only in hindsight, and this is something I recognized a while back. But at the time, I was losing. There were friends that I wasn't being invited out to functions or parties or whatever because Kyle's not drinking. I mean, fuck those friends.
Yeah.
Excuse my French,
Yeah.
but recreating your identity um, in the face of your friends, in the face of friendships, loved ones, um, anybody it's a scary thing because uh, going back to what you said about feeling safe, like everybody just wants to feel safe. And when you work inside a box that you've created, this friendship, this idea of friendship, and you have your identity and you know who your friend is and they know who you are, as soon as you go, well, maybe that's not me, you're also, I feel like at least I'm risking, well, maybe also maybe not going to like this new person as well, right? It takes courage it took.
Absolutely. It's a change. Anytime there's a change. And sometimes we don't know that sometimes we don't even know that we're fearing the change. Like, who knows if you knew at the time all the interactions that were happening that led to you not getting invited and all of that stuff. But the most, so it's good that the friends were not having you and you didn't fight to make it back because you were fighting to have the addiction or that thing back.
Yeah,
it's very
yeah.
true when they say you got to you can't surround yourselves with addicts. No. I imagine if because then you're in that same community, not only are you being exposed to it, that's not even it's I wonder, I theorize because
Mm-hmm.
but it's also just the company you keep may not be allowing you to not have the drink or to do whichever drug it is, because
They can enable you.
because if you don't do it and you're hanging out with me, what does that say about me?
Yes.
Oh, you think, oh,
Yeah.
so I'm an asshole because I'm the one drinking. Oh, fuck you. And that's how we deal with conflict, you know,
Yeah.
especially as men.
Mhm.
But usually, yeah, anyway. Yeah, okay.
It's interesting, right? Like, you know, that it takes courage, it takes bravery. When you masculinity, the idea of masculinity, right? I mean, we have, you know, I was talking to somebody at I was doing an interview earlier today, and the idea of masculinity came up because we were talking about this initiative that I've kind of been doing, and she said, you know, like a construction worker
Mhm.
is like is masculine to me. Like, you know, they work with their hands, they build stuff, they're gruff, you know, it's a very blue collar kind of mentality, in theory, you know. And then I had said to her, I said, well, what if I got to interview that construction worker? And all of a sudden they were like, well, I've got a 6-year-old daughter. I've been in therapy for 15 years, and I wear a tutu on the weekends, and I play in my little girl's dollhouse, and I love my wife to death. You know, blah blah blah. Would the idea of masculinity change?
Mm.
And she said, well, I just wouldn't have thought that construction worker would be wearing a tutu and playing in a dollhouse on the weekends. I said, well, doesn't that just make him kind of this brave kind of dad who's willing to like take it down these boundaries because he wants to be like the best version of himself for his daughter? Isn't that masculine? Like, isn't taking care of ourselves masculine? Like, are we not? The whole point of this thing is like, let's redefine what this stigma, let's redefine what it means to be masculine. Because, you know, I'm not saying you know, it's great not to learn how to fall off your bike and get back on it. You know, there's life lessons that we learned in our generation that I think are still very, very, very good to have and use as tools. But let's redefine what it means to be, you know, let's make caring, let's make, you know, allowing your friends to cry on your shoulders. Let's allow crying on your friends' shoulders. Let's normalize the idea of asking somebody how they are and actually being like, Brandon, look, I just met you, dude, but you seem like a fucking amazing guy. Like, how are you? How are you? Like, because I genuinely care, and I'm like, I love getting to know you like
When
that.
we actually talk to people and we can be more vulnerable, then disparate people can get along. You know, it's
Mm,
we let our egos drive us and tell us who we are. The programming from our parents, from our youth, from our, you know, the place that we live, or the religion, or the politics that we follow, they're all wrapped up in our concept of ourself and our ego. Any of those things could shift. You could just be sorry, don't go there, Brandon. All of those things stop us from changing sometimes and shifting to a more joyful, empathetic space, because it's attached to our sense of self. So, like, when I was going to church regularly, part of Brandon Routh was wrapped up in being a Methodist, being a Christian.
mm,
When I was, you know, high school, I was fairly judgmental about certain things, not about social issues, but like, you know, no sex before marriage, and you know, proper like moral stuff like that.
yeah, yeah.
That was the biggest one. And so I know it's weird, but I'm going to say that. And also, I grew up in Iowa, and I'm a Hawkeye fan.
Right.
Time Hawkeye football, basketball, all the Hawkeyes, women's, men's. I was a Hawkeye. I'm from Iowa. I'm a Hawkeye. I'm a Methodist. These are
Yeah,
things about me.
yeah.
Uh, now there are things that are a part of my story.
Mm-hmm.
I am.
Mm-hmm.
I rarely watch football these days. I enjoy it, but also I still laugh at myself that I don't know what's happening in the NFL or college football. Whereas, 3 years ago, I would, 2 years ago, it's, having a child, for me anyway, made that go away, which is fine. I don't need that as a part of my life, but there's still like, I still hold that part of me that was like,
Sure.
oh, on the couch watching football.
Yeah.
Oh, it's nice. And there's almost a little bit of a pull to that even because it's comfort, right? It's safety. It feels like safety, right? These moments
Yeah.
feel like safety.
Nostalgia.
Nostalgia feels like safety because it's an experience that I had before that was safe. So I want to go back. I want to make things go back to the way they were when I felt they were safe.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the way. It's a way.
Right.
But also the future is pretty great too. And I think collectively, the more we're able to understand how much control we actually have, um, um, then we can really start to do even better things as in humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Because we lack the belief in ourselves and the trust that we can be more than we are. I mean, listen, I didn't know I was going to play Superman. It is odd because I did. My phone is being weird. Sorry. I don't know. I don't want to update my phone. Go away. Unplug this. So hold on. This is good. Where was I?
You didn't know you were going to play
I
Superman.
knew I was going to play Superman, but I used to. My mom thought I was going to be like a pastor for a while because there was this thing called
Right.
the attic or I don't know, some little like Reader's Digest type little thing that 25 cents they used to have at church that you could buy and had Bible verses or something. I think I liked a little book, but I would read it, and
Yeah.
I was into it.
Yeah.
But I never really thought I was going to be that. I thought if I did anything like that, to be a teacher, English teacher, because I was an English major in
Mm-hmm.
the college that I went to, and if I wasn't able to write it, maybe I'd become an English teacher. But Superman found me, or I found him. The whole experience, which is whole trippy experience, which is very much be the water, very much naively. I
Sure.
work with water in many ways, or be like water. So I didn't know that I was going to do that, but I have. And when I got that job, I had to think about what it was like to be the most powerful being that existed, right?
Yeah.
As a 24-year-old. Okay.
Did you immediately think of like your experience in the church?
I know of Superman as a Christ figure, and I'm an English major. I knew Christ
Yeah.
figures and used in literature and stuff. So
Yeah.
I knew parallels, and there was very clear parallels, and that if you want to see them, that are in the actual movie.
Sure.
So yeah, I was as savior. I was well aware of that, but I was no longer ascribing to be in public anyway. In
Mm-hmm.
a way, I was very much opening my mind to all of the possibilities. And actually, it's not that God doesn't exist. It's just, different.
Another conversation.
Another conversation. Or it is in this conversation actually. And so I did that investigation, and my wonderful acting coach Tanya Bears, and we did all this, and Terry Notary, who was my movement coach, just through movement on my body and learning grace and all of these things, I had to feel like I had to move like him. Dressing like him was important. But that's like I can't walk around, or I haven't been, as Brandon Routh, as
Right.
I imagine I was wearing the Superman suit and carried my Superman energy out into the world.
Hmm.
My 24-year-old, 25-year-old thought always was, people are gonna laugh. You're ridiculous. Like, what do you do? Like, you're such a like like you don't know.
Sure.
Who are you? Who are you?
Right. Yeah.
Shit. And I'm like, okay, beat myself down, put myself in a box.
Hmm.
20 years later, almost 20 years since the movie's come out, I go to a lot of conventions the last couple of years, and kids who grew up watching it, who were 5 when they watched it, are now 20, they're grown people, and they're like, "You're my
Hmm.
Superman growing up." I'm like, wow, that was a long time ago. That's amazing. People love these characters. They love the art and the stories we are able to bring to them because it's that safety. I'm understanding more and more when people say, oh, Legends got me through this, your character got me through this, COVID or this or that. Superman got me through this hard time when I was in Iraq, came out when I was there. Superman was the movie that my wife and I went to for our first date, and now we're married and we have 85 kids. It's like these people have had experiences to this thing that I helped create. I didn't create all of it. I didn't create
Sure.
Superman. I just get to be the guy who's like trying to carry this torch, this energy, this human potential. I didn't
Hmm.
think about it then, but now I do. The last
Hmm.
years, as I talk about it in Q&As, I firmly believe, because I believe it for myself, that the only limit to human excellence or capability is the human itself, each individual, and then collectively. Like, the greater we all think we all are, the better we all are. It's
Hmm.
everything's connected. It all makes sense. It's hard to conceive, but it is true. Of one thing, I am sure everything is connected. Um, and so I say to people, I see Superman as an example of what we can all be as humans, the best that we can be. He exemplifies the potential, or maybe even there's more beyond that, of
Hmm.
greatness, of empathy, of grace, of vulnerability, of acceptance, of safety and security.
Hmm.
I don't know if you get to have superpowers or not, but why, maybe. Like, we don't like. It's just, who knows? Okay, so because I've done a lot of thinking about this, and I go out and I see these people, and now that I'm more in touch and accepting and understanding of my role in this, which is not as I'm an actor, I'm very good at this role. I played Superman. People love me.
Hmm.
It's I've I'm following this, like, the flow, my river, if you will, let's use a metaphor,
Hmm.
is the Superman river. And I'm just going where it goes, and it's getting broader and broader and broader, and maybe reaching more people. I don't know. I'm creating this new analogy, but I am able to receive people's love and adoration much more now than I ever did before, because I know it's not, because I don't take it only about me.
Right.
I had to stop compliments because I'm like, oh, I'm only Brandon Routh. I'm just blah blah blah.
Hmm. Hmm.
But the compliment is coming at me, but it's also all these thousands of people who have contributed to the story of Superman.
Hmm.
So when I finally got onto that stream,
Yeah.
I could accept people's thanks and gratitude. And when I'm in that space now, like, I go to these conventions, and I have not that I didn't always have a wonderful time, but I just I there's very energetically powerful for me, it seems, lately, because I feel the love, and like I'm
Yeah.
returning it back to people.
Yeah.
And that's like it's like a palpable human like effect. Like, I feel it, and I see people come up to the table and go, and it's just a really cool thing.
Of course it
That's
is.
just a
Yeah.
simple thing. That's just like being kind to people, which
Yeah.
can be a challenge. It's not
Hmm.
easy all the time. Um, but you gotta, I mean, you gotta do your best to live it all the time. Like, you can't put it in a box. You can't.
Right. Yeah. Do you think there's a correlation between the idea, and not just this is me snowballing an idea past you, because you're obviously very intelligent. You've thought about a lot of this stuff. You've done work. You're you sound like a very very cool man. I love this, dude. This is I love
Would
having
probably
this
say different.
conversation. But like, so Superman, when he's wearing the suit, he has the responsibility to the world to be its savior, right? And I don't know, I'm sure you followed the comics, and God knows I did, as a kid growing up. But there were so many times through his stories where he just wanted to be Clark Kent.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if we can make the correlation between Superman and Clark Kent, and you have Superman, which is this identity that we take on through society to be the best versions of ourselves that we can be, which is exhausting, right? And we take up, we got to run the rat race, we got to have the job, we got to pay the bills. We have to be strong. We can't complain. We are invincible. We're invincible. We're invincible. And this is the idea that we kind of take on as men. Women also take it on as well. Like it's but this conversation in particular is about men's mental health at this moment. We take on this ideology as a man. We are a man, and then even in the comic books, we have this superhero, this character that's not even of this earth, who just wants to be human, who just wants a break. I mean, if that doesn't, that gives me goosebumps, because I never really thought of it that way. And literally, I had to talk to Superman to actually have that come into my head. But, isn't that kind of interesting? Like, no matter what we are carrying, we need some kind of outlet. We need some kind of balance. We need to let ourselves feel pain. We need to let ourselves not be okay. We need a break. We need to talk. We need to be human.
Yes, it's a great thing you're bringing up, and I think that there's a duality to Superman. He is Superman, he is Clark, and he is also Kal-El. Superman is the clergy. Superman is the teacher. Superman is the is the prophet, is goodness, right? But still human, even though he's an alien, he's a human. And I don't think it's possible to divorce yourself from that,
right?
So I think probably a lot of Superman's struggles, from a personal standpoint, come from his denial of his own fulfillment and joy in life. I am an eternal optimist. I used to really hate movies that had sad endings. Now I'm older and mature, and I understand that sometimes that's important. But I always wanted Superman to be with Lois. I'm like, come on, guys! Like, if Superman can't be with Lois, what are we all doing here?
Right.
Life is all about sacrifice, and even the strongest guy in the world still doesn't get to be happy. Come on, I don't get it. I don't buy it. That's not for me. So no matter what the story is, I'm always the guy gets the girl, the girl gets the girl, the guy gets the guy, the person, they get everybody gets the person. Okay. And you can't stop me from thinking that. And because of that, it turns, we haven't seen that. We haven't seen that film. We haven't seen that depiction of Superman, I don't think so much, who embraces his humanity. That's what makes him better. That's what makes it all.
There's strength.
Duality.
A lot of the strengths are pulled from being human.
Yes, we have to know what it is to feel pain. We have to know what it's like to feel pain in order to reflect that we can see that another person has felt pain. It's shitty. It sucks. I don't know how a person can be here on Earth well, maybe there's a different way. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll get there.
Mhm.
And because I don't want to have to teach all the young kids about pain in order for them to have a joyful life. I think if I actually, now I'm solving it in my head, maybe a little bit, or giving you an idea, the less pain there is in the world, the less exposure people will have to need, because you won't have to experience it. So the more love there is, love is more common. So we get attuned to love, and pain and fear are not as alarming for us. So we're not affected by it as much.
Mhm.
Again, the whole thing is connected. All ships rise with the tide of all tides rise together, whatever, all the things. But I'm a firm believer in just everyone bringing happiness to everyone. But I don't want to also, sorry, I also don't want to get away from the mental health and the masculine aspect of this. So Superman wants to be human. Clark Kent gets to do that. And I don't think I guess when I say everyone has the ability to be, I hope that everyone has the ability to become like Superman. That only comes, I think, through understanding the duality of pain and joy.
Mhm.
Okay, make it palatable, Brandon. I think that I am not Superman, but the image of Superman, the archetype of
Mhm.
hero, is incredibly important at this
Mhm.
time. Will it always be? I don't know.
Mhm.
And I look at it like that. So what makes Superman great and masculine isn't that he roofs houses or is a plumber or can
Mhm.
fix your sink or knows
Mhm.
how to change your tire.
Sure.
I'm sure he could figure it out. But it's his compassion. It's his caring. It's his ability to allow for difference, allow for pain in people, to know that he's strong enough
Mhm.
that nothing's going to shake him.
Right.
I mean, if you think about the people, some people are triggered by who you might be dating.
Mhm.
And if you think about it from this perspective, like I think only this person should date this person. No, pick a different topic. No, that's fine. Um, and I think it's a stronger position for Superman to say you can be with whomever you like, love, live, just don't hurt people the best you can,
Right.
and be happy. Versus me thinking, or him thinking, that he knows he didn't come here and say like, I'm
What's
the most
best?
powerful being in the world.
Sure.
Let me tell you the religion you should use, who's can marry who,
Mhm.
sex with who,
Yep.
and all that.
Mhm.
No, because he's safe and secure. So when we're not safe and secure in ourselves,
Mhm.
we have to structure the world in a way that is not scary for us.
Right.
You have to
Fear.
be the same. This person has to live the life that I live, because that's what I know. This other thing is scary. I don't know. It make me think other things.
Mhm.
Can't handle it. That's not masculinity. That's fear.
Right.
Fear's okay.
Yeah.
I have fear. It's acknowledging the fear. And
Right.
maybe that's the true essence of masculinity. Who knows what we need any true everybody has it. Women have, I mean, masculine is feminine, whatever. Everybody has some kind of whatever the thing is. I don't give a shit about what the term is. It's just a term.
Right.
To be a man. To be a man is, forget about masculinity for me. It's about so many things, but it's about caring about people. But how do you care about people? It's a kind of,
it's about,
my brain's like, but how do you care about people if you've never been cared for? So, you know, also the thing is, we can't get down on, we don't, it's not helpful to get down on people who don't understand
yeah.
what we're talking about in this conversation, or the levels of whatever people receive from this conversation. It's lending a hand, and it's doing the Superman thing, which is like, you might be yelling at me, you might not be on my side, but I'm here. I'm always around.
Right.
Whenever you're ready. Because I've been living in this world. We've all been living in this world with the hate and the fear, and you telling me what and who and what I can't do. And we're still going on. So Superman would just allow people to be who they are, which is what we should all be doing.
I hear you bringing up love consistently and leading with love and allowing yourself to love wholly, to forgive, to be there for your loved ones, to be a shoulder for your partners. You know, we wish there was more love in the world. You know, fear is a catalyst for change if we can open ourselves up to learning and loving. And that's hard. That's a hard thing to do. It's scary. And you know, this conversation is hopefully a catalyst for somebody or somebody and their friend or a kid sitting somewhere to sit there and go like, that works. I understand what they're talking about. I'm going to talk to my buddy about it, or my wife, or my girlfriend about it, because like, this is just an interesting conversation. And I've been thinking about this a lot. So hopefully this triggers something else for somebody else. You know what I mean? And
it will.
I can't thank you enough for like just getting into it, like philosophizing with me, because my brain works like yours does in a way. It's like it's analytical, and I'm constantly trying to like, what if, like, maybe if I could do something more, do something differently, or maybe if I just loved harder, I could make a difference. And this is the beginning of, you know, us having a conversation about trying to make a difference.
You're doing enough. You're doing it. You're doing all that you can. I mean, it's true. I can say that sincerely, even though I don't know you, because you are. I see it. This is something somebody said to me a couple years ago. It was like, doing everything you can. If you could do more and you could make yourself do it, wouldn't you do it?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the loop that I find myself in. It's like, wait, for kicking yourself while you're down? Like, let off, Brandon.
Right.
Like, you're not gonna get it done today.
We are doing the best with the tools that we have.
Yeah. And if you don't like it, then upgrade your tools. And that takes bravery, because it can change. And I recommend that everyone listening to this get the book Good Inside. Dr. Becky Kennedy, a wonderful book about parenting and reparenting. That is, I mean, helpful in a lot of the parent stuff, and help you, maybe everyone give each other a little bit more grace, because you know, we were all born good inside, and it is our story that we go on that may lead us to, you know, teenage, being a kid or an adult at some point, who doesn't like, may not like themselves,
Mm-hmm.
has been told that they're not worth anything. And we do that to other people that we don't know. We other people. They're evil, they're bad, they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Does that help us? Doesn't help us.
Right.
It fuels anger and kind of keeps us warring at each other. And it's a hard ask. Like, there are some people who are very troublesome in the world. They were good inside, like, oh. But you know, it's like at some point they were
Of course
just
they were.
a
We are
spark
a
of
product
something.
of our environments.
And then you know but that's a start of like a mantra, good insight. And was for me sometimes that I use a lot of mantras in my that I come up with, or that other people have, that I've come across. And working, that's what Superman does. Everyone is good inside at their heart. What's happening in the person that you're seeing who doesn't seem good inside to you is fear, and ego. And let me tell you, the bad people in the world, pretty much probably all of them, never been shown much love or compassion or grace or authentic human connection in their life. Therefore, how can they understand the pain that they're giving? Their world is pain. Like, there's no other side of it. So we have to like rethink and open up our minds about how to combat this stuff, because just shooting everybody, like, that doesn't fix the problem.
So that was Good Inside by Becky Kennedy. Is that right?
Yeah.
Good Inside by Becky Kennedy. We talked a little bit about, I'm going to check it out.
And it's Audible, which is all I do.
I love that. It's
ADHD.
easy. It's the easy drive to work every morning. I can throw it on. Meditation, therapy, communication, leading with love. All of these things are wonderful places and goals to aim for. Try therapy. There's lots of different kinds of therapy.
Yes, I know you're wrapping up. Certified trauma therapists are fantastic. Their website, any therapist, well, other therapists could be good, but certified trauma therapy is a certain type of therapy that is, I don't know, it's just more evolved.
Sure. Yeah.
And I recommend that. And I want to say one more thing.
Please.
Remember what it was, which was about, oh no, my brain's making it go away. It was about, I was wrapping up a point. Dang it. Okay. It's gone. Maybe it'll come back.
Well, you can always
text no, I got it. There it is.
Okay, good.
You just trust and it comes back. When you're talking about crying, I'm surprised I didn't cry. I did too much talking, I suppose. I was crying earlier. I had the opportunity to have an acupuncture appointment, so that was wonderful. In my last episode of Legends of Tomorrow of season 5, Nick Zano and I have a scene where we're coming into the Wave Rider and saying goodbye to each other. And it's like some of the best acting I've ever done. That's because I wasn't acting and like sobbing and just like, it was about missing my friend, but the whole experience of all that the heart and soul that I'd given to Legends of Tomorrow and say goodbye. It was very raw. And so was, and he was. And we're crying through the scene and saying, I love you, man. Like that is coming to memory, along with the fact that throughout the years, people would say, it's really nice to see the bromance. And I didn't even understand. I mean, I knew what that was, but I was like, what does that mean for them? And I understand that as I am creating more bromances in my life, I'm connecting with friends that I've had for many, many years, but on like such a deeper, more personal, authentic, fantastic, loving way. That's the new way. And we got to exemplify that a little bit on that show. And we need more of we can use more of that. We can use more of crying and men crying. I cry every day probably about something. Sometimes I don't know what it is. But
Right.
I used to get upset with myself. I used to cry in inopportune times. It was very emotional. When a kid tripped me in soccer one time, like on the playground, like third grade, and I was so upset because he, whatever he did, it was, you know, not fair. And I got up and I started, was like, ah, and I sobbing.
Yeah.
Times when I've been so upset or like embarrassed or upset, but I'm crying, like this is not right. So I stopped crying a little bit and thought I
Yeah.
was a weirdo. But I'm just a person who's in touch with their emotions, and I cry a lot, and it's wonderful, and I always feel better after. So
It's an important outlet.
I recommend that you listen to music that makes you cry, guys. Listen to something
Movies.
happy at the end. You know, come movies that make you cry. I mean, it's the jam.
It is. It is. Crying is a great outlet. It's an important one. Acupuncture is another great way to take care of yourself.
Taking care of ourselves is very important. It feels like selfish, but you know, there's that fine line between, you know, self-care and then being away from your family if you have a family. But self-care is very important.
Again, you know, if you can't take care of yourself, you're not going to be there to be able to take care of your family and the people around you. So it is important to take care of your mind, your body. It's important to eat healthy. You know, that's another conversation for another time. But Brandon, thank you so much for your insight. You've been a wealth of knowledge. Thank you for sharing so genuinely your soul, your stories. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you for doing it. I appreciate you taking the initiative to get it done. I mean, sure they asked you, but it's a lot of work to make it happen and to schedule with a busy, you know, congratulations to the show, and
Thank you.
you're a parent now and all the stuff. So that's why I say when you're doing it, like you're doing it, and this is like, you know, this is just the beginning of things, you know.
Yeah, this was an idea I came up with a couple of weeks ago, and I pitched it across the board, and I said, you know,
Well, there you go. So you're driving it too.
I'm driving it, man.
You're doing it, man.
I'm driving this whole thing, and it's turned into a labor of love, and I feel lighter every day when I get to have these conversations with my friends that who are opening up to me too, and it's starting this
creating
thing.
Connection of strength of shared story, and there's safety in that. That's where safety comes. Connecting with more people makes you feel safer, creating stronger connections with people creates more safety and security. So
yeah, and trust and love. And I know if I'm in a room and you know it hits the fan and I see you across the room, I'm going to you because I got your back and you got my back because we shared something intimate and vulnerable and very cool. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. I'm grateful to be a part of it.
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon. I'll send you all the details for everything, and it's really been a pleasure and an honor to chat with you.
All right. It's been fun getting to know you this way. Later.
Thanks, man.